So good evening everybody, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy Science and Technology Current Affairs Analysis session. So this session is the extension of the previous session, because previous session also we have discussed science and technology important current affairs, and in this session also we have some more important current affairs from science and technology. So one by one we'll try to discuss all these important topics in an exam specific manner, right? And apart from that, whatever we are going to discuss from the science and technology portion, so we have been discussing keeping in mind the prelims examination, right? So they're not so in-depth and detailed, but they specifically focus on the demand of the prelims examination and the way the questions are being asked in the prelims examination. So without wasting any further time, let's start our discussion. The first article is about the tuberculosis, and recently the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has released India TB Report 2024. There may be a question that which of the following ministries or organizations have released the India Tuberculosis Report 2024. So the correct answer is Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So we all knew that tuberculosis is a disease which is caused by a bacteria. So therefore in India, tuberculosis is one of the chronic disease. Now what is a chronic disease? Chronic disease is any disease which is a long term, right? So actually these TB cases are very highly, they are prevalent at a large scale, and the TB disease is also we can say that it is a chronic disease, a long-term disease. And in fact, when we talk about the TB disease, it is caused by bacteria, as I have already told you. TB disease is caused by bacteria. The pathogen is bacteria, and the name of the pathogen is Bacillus mycobacterium. So this is the bacteria. Bacillus mycobacterium is the bacteria that causes TB among human beings. And in fact, which body part would be affected by the tuberculosis? It is lungs. So lungs would be affected by the infection of Bacillus mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it is also known as pulmonary TB because it impacts the lungs of the human beings, and because of that reason it is known as pulmonary TB. And there is another variety of TB, that is extrapulmonary TB, and this variety of TB affect other areas of the body. It is not just infecting the lungs of the human being, rather it affects other body parts of the human beings, and because of that reason it is known as extrapulmonary TB. So understand the difference. The pulmonary TB, where tuberculosis bacteria infects the lungs of the human beings. However, extrapulmonary TB, so apart from the lungs, it also infect other body parts of the human beings, such as gastrointestinal tuberculosis, skeletal tuberculosis, and even liver tuberculosis. So that is the difference between the pulmonary TB and extrapulmonary TB. Now how the TB is transmitted from one human being to another human being? So it is through by air, right? So suspended droplets in air, so they are one of the main medium of transmission of this TB disease, right? So air, when an infected person cough, sneezes, laughs, and so by all these modes the TB bacteria would be transmitted from one individual to another individual. And in fact, with respect to tuberculosis, as I have told you that it is a chronic disease or a long-term disease. Now since it is a chronic disease, you need to use medicines for a longer periods of time. So therefore there is a very high probability that this TB bacteria would develop antimicrobial resistance. I have already explained what is antimicrobial resistance. So antimicrobial resistance means pathogens developing resistance to the medicine or existing medication, so that they would not be even if we use medicine, so those pathogens will not be affected. They continue to cause the disease among the human beings, and that is known as antimicrobial resistance. In fact, tuberculosis is a chronic disease and it requires long-term usage of medicine, and that makes tuberculosis develops antimicrobial resistance. And so there are different types of drug for resistant TB, because TB has developed antimicrobial resistance. So multi-drug resistant TB, which is also known as MDR, and extensively drug resistant tuberculosis, XDR TB, and totally drug resistant tuberculosis, TDR TB. And when we talk about the multi-drug resistant TB, so this variety of TB develops resistance to multiple drugs, right? So resistant to at least isoniazid and rifampicin medicines in this variety of tuberculosis. However, extensively drug resistant tuberculosis is resistant to a wide variety of medicine, right? So you can go through it as well. And totally drug resistant tuberculosis, it is resistant to almost all first and second line TB drugs. So that's how Bacillus Mycobacterium tuberculosis has been developing resistance to the medicines because of long-term usage of the medicines over a period of time. And even if you stop using medicine in a midway, so that also causes the this tuberculosis among human beings, or antimicrobial resistance for the TB disease. I hope you have understood that. So in this article you need to remember a few things. So first is India TB Report 2024 is released by the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Second, tuberculosis is a disease which is caused by a bacteria. And what is the name of the bacteria? It is Bacillus Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And TB bacteria is two types. One is pulmonary TB that infects lungs of the human being, and secondly the extrapulmonary TB. So extrapulmonary TB infects along with the lungs other body parts as well. For example, gastrointestinal tuberculosis, skeletal tuberculosis, liver tuberculosis as well. So that is the difference between pulmonary TB and extrapulmonary TB. And TB has been developing resistance to multiple drugs, and that is known as antimicrobial resistance to this TB disease. Next is a 50th year of Aryabhatta launch. So recently Indian Space Research Organization has celebrated Satellite Technology Day, right? So there may be a question that which day is celebrated by ISRO as a Satellite Technology Day, right? So the correct answer is April 19. Every year April 19 is celebrated as Satellite Technology Day. So please, you need to remember this. April 19 every year is celebrated as Satellite Technology Day. Now why this day is celebrated as Satellite Technology Day? Because India's first indigenously developed satellite was Aryabhatta, right? So Aryabhatta was India's first indigenously developed satellite, and this satellite was launched on 19th April 1975. However, this year, so we are celebrating 50th year of Aryabhatta launch. And because of this particular reason, so every year April 19 is celebrated as Satellite Technology Day. And in fact, so we have been commemorating the 50th year of Aryabhatta launch. So when Aryabhatta was launched, it was launched on April 19, 1975. So since we are celebrating the 50th year, it is important that you may get question on this as well. Now some details with respect to Aryabhatta. So it was India's first satellite, right? So Aryabhatta is known as India's first indigenously developed satellite, and in fact Aryabhatta is named after a very famous Indian astronomer Aryabhatta who lived in the 5th century. And apart from that, Aryabhatta satellite was built by ISRO. However, it was launched by a Soviet Cosmos 3M rocket from Kapustin Yar, Russia. And apart from that, Aryabhatta satellite aimed to conduct experiments in X-ray astronomy, aeronomics and solar physics. So however, this is not that important. So important things with respect to Aryabhatta satellite launch, the 50th anniversary of Aryabhatta launch. So April 19 is celebrated as Satellite Technology Day because on April 19, 1975, India's first indigenously developed satellite, that is Aryabhatta, is launched into the space. However, this year we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Aryabhatta satellite. Okay. And apart from that, Aryabhatta is India's first indigenously developed satellite. So it was built by ISRO, but rather it was launched through a Soviet Cosmos 3M rocket. So you just have to remember that thing, and apart from that, you should also know that National Space Day, National Technology Day. So those things you need to remember, right? So next is Dragonfly mission. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Dragonfly mission and what is the significance of this Dragonfly mission. Okay, so NASA has recently announced that Dragonfly mission to Saturn's massive moon Titan. See, Earth has a moon. And in a similar way, Mars also has 2 moons. Okay, so Mars also has 2 moons, and other planets also have moons orbiting around those planets. In a similar way, Saturn is a planet and it also has a moon called Titan. So it has several moons, but a very important moon is Titan. Now, why scientists have been showing a lot of interest on Saturn's moon Titan is because there may be possibility of life on Titan. So there may be conditions suitable for the life on the moon Titan, Saturn's moon Titan, and because of that reason, so scientists have been showing a lot of interest on this Saturn's moon Titan. So recently, NASA has announced that Dragonfly mission. Okay, so Dragonfly mission is to Saturn's massive moon Titan, and that will be launched in which year? It will be launched in the year 2028. Remember, this Dragonfly mission is not yet launched. Okay, so it is just announced by NASA. And apart from that, this Dragonfly mission will be the 4th mission of NASA's New Frontier program. And in fact, NASA has launched a New Frontier program. So this is a broader program. So under this New Frontier program, there will be different missions that are being planned by NASA for various purposes. Okay, so this Dragonfly mission is going to be the 4th mission. So the other 3 missions are New Horizons is 1 mission, and Juno to Jupiter, and OSIRIS-REx to asteroid Bennu, right? So OSIRIS-REx was sent to asteroid Bennu, that we have already understood. So in a similar way, so this Dragonfly mission will be the 4th mission as part of NASA's New Frontier program. So this is very important. Please remember, these 2 points are very, very important in this topic. So I'm repeating again. So Dragonfly is a space mission of NASA to Saturn's moon Titan, right? And in fact, this is recently announced, and NASA has been planning to launch this Dragonfly mission in the year 2028. However, the Dragonfly mission is part of NASA's New Frontiers program. And apart from Dragonfly mission, NASA has already planned 3 missions. So Dragonfly will be the 4th mission. So what are the earlier missions as part of New Frontiers program? So New Horizons, right? So New Horizons mission, and then Juno mission to Jupiter, and OSIRIS-REx. So this OSIRIS-REx is a sample collection mission from asteroid Bennu. Okay, so and the 4th mission will be this Dragonfly mission. Dragonfly mission to Saturn's moon Titan. And what is the goal and what is the objective of this Dragonfly mission by NASA? So this mission plans to explore the chemistry and habitability of multiple surface sites covering a large area. And in fact, it will also help investigating Titan's habitability. Now, as I have already told you that scientists believe that Titan has conditions suitable for the life, and that is the reason for increased interest on Titan. So therefore, because of this particular reason, NASA has been sending this Dragonfly mission to Saturn's moon Titan, and this will be launched in the year 2028, and Dragonfly mission will reach Titan by the year 2034, exactly after 6 years. And in fact, Titan is the only satellite in our solar system known to be blanketed by a dense atmosphere, and it also has a host of liquid seas on its surface, right? So whenever any planet or moon of any other planet has a dense atmosphere or liquid water on its surface, so there are conditions suitable for life on those planets. So in order to look into that, and in order to understand the conditions which are prevalent on Saturn's moon Titan, so this Dragonfly mission will be sent. So next topic is Kalam 250. So we'll try to understand what exactly is Kalam 250. And in fact, Kalam 250 is a satellite, right? So this is a satellite. So we'll understand about this. Skyroot Aerospace has successfully test-fired stage 2 of Vikram space launch vehicle. Okay, so that is called as Kalam 250. Skyroot is one of the private space firm, like how SpaceX is a private space firm in USA. In a similar way, this Skyroot Aerospace is also a private space firm in India. So that has successfully test-fired stage 2 of a Vikram space launch vehicle called Kalam 250. Right? So they are going to develop a space launch vehicle, and the name of the space launch vehicle is Vikram. Right? So the stage 2 of Vikram space launch vehicle is called as Kalam 250. So it's not a satellite. So it is one of the stage of the space launch vehicle Vikram that has been developed by Skyroot Aerospace. And in fact, stage 2 of this Vikram 1 space launch vehicle is very significant. It is very important because it propels satellites from dense atmosphere of Earth to deep vacuum of outer space, right? So this stage 2 is very important because when any space launch vehicle carrying satellites, it has to cross Earth's dense atmosphere, and then it will enter into the vacuum of the outer space. So this Vikram 1 space launch vehicle stage 2, that is Kalam 250, is very, very important because it propels the satellites. And in fact, so Vikram 1 is a 3-stage solid fuel based rocket. So Vikram 1 is a space launch vehicle, and in fact it involves 3 stages, and it uses solid fuel based rocket. So it is a solid fuel based rocket. And when we talk about Kalam 250, it is a high strength carbon composite rocket motor, and that uses solid fuel, as we have already discussed, and it also uses a very high performance ethylene propylene diene terpolymers, which is also known as EPDM or thermal protection system, because remember that it has to go outer space, right? From dense Earth's atmosphere, it has to go to the outer space to deliver those satellites. And the solid propellant means this solid fuel in Kalam 250, that is second stage of Vikram 1 space launch vehicle, will be processed by Solar Industries at Nagpur facility. And in fact, earlier Skyroot Aerospace had already tested Kalam 100. Okay, so Kalam 100, third stage of Vikram 1, which was test fired successfully in the year 2021, right? So in this, you need to understand what is a Skyroot Aerospace. Now, Skyroot Aerospace is a private space agency in India, right? So it was founded by former ISRO scientists. And second thing is that Kalam 250 is the second stage of Vikram 1 space launch vehicle. So this is Vikram 1 is a space launch vehicle and it involves 3 stages, and the second stage of Vikram 1 space launch vehicle is Kalam 250. Now, why the second stage is very important? So the second stage is very important because it propels satellites from dense atmosphere of the Earth to the outer space. Okay, so dense atmosphere of the outer space, Earth to the outer space. And in fact, as I have already told you, that this Vikram 1 space launch vehicle will have 3 stages, and it involves the solid fuel as well. And when we talk about the Kalam 250, the second stage of Vikram 1 space launch vehicle, so it is a high strength carbon composite rocket motor, and that uses solid fuel and high performance ethylene propylene diene terpolymers, or it is also known as EPDM. So you need to remember those things. And the other aspect is that, so this solid propellant in Kalam 250, the second stage of Vikram 1, was developed by Solar Industries at Nagpur Limited, and earlier Skyroot had already tested Kalam 100. So that is the third stage of Vikram 1. So that was test fired successfully way back in the year 2021. So you can look into some details of this Skyroot space agency. So India's first privately developed rocket is Vikram. Yes, right? So that is what you need to remember. So Skyroot's Vikram series of space launch vehicles is named after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. So Vikram Sarabhai is the founder of Indian space program. So who is the founder of Indian space program? Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai is founder of the Indian space program. So this space launch vehicle is named after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, and it has 3 stages. So Vikram 1, Vikram 2 and Vikram 3. Okay, so these are 3 stages, and it is a solid fuel rocket. And some other details with respect to SpaceX. Now, in fact, Vikram S, Skyroot's Vikram S, is India's first privately built rocket. Okay, so Vikram S launch vehicle or a rocket is developed by the Kondapur, which is in present day Telangana based, a space technology startup, Skyroot. Okay, so it was launched by the former ISRO scientists Pavan Kumar Chandana and Nagabharat Dakha. Okay, so these are some details with respect to Skyroot private space agency, and you can also go through some other details, some data with respect to the Vikram S launch vehicle. So that is privately built launch vehicle in India. Okay, so the next is indelible ink. Okay, so this is also known as voter's ink. Now you can easily understand this. So if you ever cast your vote in an election, so you can see that there's an ink which is just put on your finger, right? So in fact, it has been used right from several years after India's independence as a mark of, authenticity, as a mark to avoid duplicate votes in the Indian election, right? So who manufactures this indelible ink? Can anybody manufacture this indelible ink? No. Only one company in India can manufacture this indelible ink. That company is Mysore Paints and Varnishes Limited. So you need to understand this because this is very, very important. right? So Mysore Paints and Varnish Limited manufactures this indelible ink, which is also known as voters ink. And in fact, it is the sole manufacturer of this indelible ink. So you just have to remember the company. And in fact, why this indelible ink and also Mysore Paints and Varnishes is in use? Because it has received its largest order from the Election Commission for 26.55 lakh vials of marker, and that is why the voters ink is in news. However, in fact, under Rule 49K of the Conduct of Election Rules 1961, every elector shall allow his left forefinger, whoever cast their vote shall allow their left hand forefinger to be inspected by the presiding officer or the polling officer, right? So presiding officer, so who is the head of the polling booth, okay? So returning officer, the head of the entire constituency when elections are taking place in a state. So therefore, any elector shall allow his left forefinger to be inspected by the presiding officer or polling officer, and an indelible ink mark to be put on it. So this is how indelible ink mark will be put on the left forefinger of the voter. And once this ink is applied, this purple colored ink, so once this purple colored ink is applied on your left forefinger, so it cannot be removed by any chemical, any detergent, soap, oil for several months, right? So not several months, maybe several days, it cannot be removed. So that's how, it can avoid duplication of votes. So one individual casting multiple votes can be detrimental to the overall conduct of elections and free and fair elections. And because in order to ensure free and fair elections, and in order to prevent duplication of votes, so this purple colored ink, which is manufactured by Mysore Paints and Varnish Limited, is put on the every elector. And in fact, which chemical this ink contains, this is also very, very important, because this ink contains silver nitrate, right? This ink contains silver nitrate, which on reaction with the nail and on exposure to light, and it gets further darker. So you just have to remember which chemical is in the indelible ink. Silver nitrate is in the indelible ink, and apart from that, it is a purple colored ink, and it is manufactured by Mysore Paints and Varnishes Limited, and that is the only manufacturer of this indelible ink. Next, parthenogenesis. So we'll try to understand what exactly is parthenogenesis. Recently, scientists have genetically modified a fruit fly. Okay, fruit fly is a species, and we all knew that the genetic engineering is a process which can be used to alter the genetic makeup of the organisms. So recently, scientists have genetically modified a species called fruit fly to reproduce asexually through parthenogenesis. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this parthenogenesis. So in fact, in fruit fly, we normally see sexual reproduction. But what scientists did? Scientists genetically modified the fruit fly to reproduce asexually through a process called parthenogenesis. Now, what is a parthenogenesis? So parthenogenesis actually means it is an asexual reproduction in which female can actually produce an embryo without fertilizing egg with the sperm. Now, generally in sexual reproduction, what happens? So in sexual reproduction, the female embryo must releases egg, and that egg must fertilize with the male sperm. So that is the sexual reproduction. However, in the process of parthenogenesis, asexual reproduction takes place, and in which a female can produce an embryo without fertilizing egg with the sperm, and that is known as asexual reproduction. So there are two forms of natural parthenogenesis. One is automixis and second is apomixis. Now what is automixis? So it is observed mostly in sharks. A slightly shuffles mother's DNA to produce children who are close to but not identical clones of mother. So that is automixis. And apomixis, a type of genetic copy and paste where offspring generated are genetically identical clones of their parents. Plants are more prone to this type of parthenogenesis. Now here, so one thing is very important that you need to understand, what is parthenogenesis. Now parthenogenesis is asexual reproduction where a female embryo releases a egg, and in fact there is no need for the fertilization of the egg with the sperm. Otherwise, this is what happens in the sexual reproduction. But on the other hand, in parthenogenesis, it is an asexual reproduction in which female can actually produce an embryo without fertilizing an egg with the sperm. And the other thing that you need to understand, natural parthenogenesis takes place in two different ways or two different forms. One is automixis and other is apomixis. So automixis, it is mostly observed in shark species, right? So generally, a slightly shuffles mother DNA to produce children who are very close to mother but not identical clones of mother, right? So the genetic structure of the mother shark would be slightly altered to produce offspring. And apomixis generally takes place in plants species, right? So it is a type of genetic copy and paste where offspring generated are genetically identical clones of their parents, and it is generally observed in plant species, and that is parthenogenesis. So you just have to understand parthenogenesis, automixis and apomixis, and that's enough from this. Okay, so next is Yaoundé Declaration. So we'll try to understand what is this Yaoundé Declaration, which is recently in news, and why it is important, and what is this declaration. So ministers of health from African countries, so they recently signed this Yaoundé Declaration to end malaria deaths. Now when we talk about malaria is one of the most serious health challenges that the world has been facing, mostly countries in the tropical regions. So countries in the tropical regions are worst hit by this malaria disease. And in fact, India also has a huge number of malaria burden, and a number of people also die every year because of malaria, and that generally takes place in India's remote and rural areas. However, so ministers of health from some African countries, they've come together and they have signed this Yaoundé Declaration to end malaria deaths. And remember that African continent also has a very high burden of malaria disease and death, and because of that particular reason, so these countries have come together and they have signed this declaration to end the scourge of malaria. And in fact, this Yaoundé Declaration, it was signed at the Yaoundé Conference, and it was co-hosted by the World Health Organization in Cameroon. And in fact, this Yaoundé Declaration was signed by 11 African nations. So it is not important which countries have signed this Yaoundé Declaration. You just remember 11 African countries, but it is with respect to prevention of malaria deaths. So 11 African countries, so they account for the majority of global malaria infections and fatalities, have signed this Yaoundé Declaration. And in fact, this Yaoundé Declaration is also aligned with the high burden to high impact approach of the World Health Organization, right? So World Health Organization has one approach to deal with these type of diseases. So the approach of World Health Organization is high burden to high impact approach, and this Yaoundé Declaration is aligned with WHO's high burden to high impact approach. So there may be a question that this particular approach is an initiative, or this particular approach is followed by which organization, right? So this is World Health Organization, and this Yaoundé Declaration is signed by the African countries to deal with the malaria deaths in the African continent. Okay, so this is how. So remember that malaria is caused by a protozoa. Okay, so malaria is caused by protozoa. So Plasmodium sporozoites, and first vector would be mosquito, right? And when mosquito bites human beings, so initial human host, and then so this is how the mosquito, so this malaria cycle usually takes place. Okay, next is Statio Shiv Shakti. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Statio Shiv Shakti. So recently International Astronomical Union, so this is also known as AIAU, International Astronomical Union, has approved the name of Statio Shiv Shakti for the landing site of Chandrayaan 3's Vikram lander. And Chandrayaan 3 is a space program of India, where India planned to send rover Pragyan onto the surface of the moon, and Chandrayaan 3 was also a successful moon mission where India successfully landed Vikram, right? So lander is known as Vikram, and once lander Vikram landed on the southern pole of the moon, then rover Pragyan came onto the surface of the moon, and it has also conducted a lot of experiments on the surface of the moon, right? So you might have seen on the surface of the moon there is something like this. Okay, so that is known as the lander, right? So this is lander Vikram, and once lander Vikram landed on the southern pole of the moon, you have also seen that there is a ramp that has been opened, and from the ramp, so you can also see like this, it is known as Pragyan, right? So Pragyan rover, and this Pragyan rover has conducted many experiments on the surface of the moon, right? So the exact site on the moon surface or the lunar surface where Vikram has landed is named as Statio Shiv Shakti. So I hope you have understood this. So this is what is known as Statio Shiv Shakti. So this name is given by International Astronomical Union. So this International Astronomical Union has approved the name Statio Shiv Shakti for the landing site of Chandrayaan 3's Vikram lander. I already told you that this is lander Vikram and it is rover Pragyan. And the name was included in Gazetteer of Planetary Nomenclature that documents planetary names which are being approved by the International Astronomical Union. So you may get a question, what is Statio Shiv Shakti, which is recently seen in news, right? So that's how questions are being asked. However, when we talk about some details with respect to Statio Shiv Shakti, it was International Astronomical Union. It was founded in the year 1919, right? So when it was founded in 1919 with its secretariat established in Paris, France. And in fact, the overall mission of this International Astronomical Union is to promote and safeguard science of astronomy in all its aspects. And as of now, 92 members are part of International Astronomical Union, and India is also one of the members of the International Astronomical Union. And International Astronomical Union very often serves as international authority for assigning designations to celestial bodies and also surface features on them. So these are some details with respect to Statio Shiv Shakti. So however, as we have already discussed, that Chandrayaan 3's landing site on the surface of the moon will now be officially called as Shiva Shakti Point after International Astronomical Union approved this. Okay, so this is Vikram lander, I'm repeating it again, and this is Pragyan rover, and this point is known as Shiva Shakti Point, right? So this is Shiva Shakti Point. Now Chandrayaan 3 moon mission. So in fact, this is the third consecutive moon mission that India has conducted. And in fact, on the first Chandrayaan 1 mission, India has successfully sent an orbiter. And in the Chandrayaan 2 mission, India has sent an orbiter, lander and rover. However, India has successfully released the orbiter into the lunar surface. However, Vikram lander was crash landed on the moon surface in Chandrayaan 2 mission, and in Chandrayaan 3 mission, India was successful in doing soft landing of this Vikram lander, and also the Pragyan rover safely released into the moon's surface as well. Chandrayaan 3 was a succeeding mission to Chandrayaan 2 and is set to launch. So it was launched on July 14, 2023. Subsequently, it was it was landed on the moon surface on August 23rd. Okay, so Chandrayaan 3 was sent through LVM 3. So please understand that LVM 3 is the heaviest rocket that ISRO has as of now, right? So this is a heaviest rocket, and its total capacity would be 4,000 kilograms, and it took off from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh, right? And in fact, total mission day of Chandrayaan 3 would be 1 lunar day, and 1 lunar day is equivalent to 14 Earth days. So remember, this is very, very important because previously also it was asked. So Chandrayaan 3's mission life is 14 Earth days, or it is also known as 1 lunar day. So 1 lunar day is equivalent to 14 Earth days. So it consisting of a propulsion module, lander module and rover, right? So this module consisting of both lander and rover. However, this is the propulsion module. So I hope you have understood some details with respect to Chandrayaan 3 and Statue Shiva Shakti Point as well. So next is, so India has ISRO has developed space-borne assistant and knowledge hub for crew interaction, and it is also known as Sakhi app. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Sakhi app. So Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, so that is located in Tumba in Thiruvananthapuram. Okay, so Satish Dhawan Space Center is located in Sriharikota, so you should not confuse. So Satish Dhawan Space Center is located in Sriharikota, and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai Space Center is located in Tumba in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. So it has recently developed it has recently developed this Sakhi app to help astronauts on the Gaganyaan mission. Now, what is this Gaganyaan mission? Gaganyaan mission is going to be India's first manned space mission. So this is going to be India's first manned space mission, where India has been planning to send 3 astronauts into the low Earth orbit. Okay, so in fact, India has been demonstrating its technology with respect to sending humans into space. So if India successfully conduct the Gaganyaan mission, then India will become the 4th country to send human beings into the space. The first 3 countries are US, former USSR, now Russia, and then China, and after China. So if Gaganyaan mission is successful, India will become the 4th country to successfully send human beings into space, right? So that is what is known as Gaganyaan mission. So in order to help Gaganyaan mission astronauts, this Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Tumba, Thiruvananthapuram, has developed this Sakhi app. So Sakhi app means a space-borne assistant and knowledge hub for the crew interaction. And some details with respect to Gaganyaan, so we'll try to understand those details as well. So Gaganyaan project envisages demonstration of human flight capability by launching crew of 3 members into an orbit of 400 km in the low Earth orbit. Now, what are the benefits of this Sakhi app? Now, what is a Sakhi app? So this is a space-borne assistant and knowledge hub for a crew interaction app. So this app is going to help Gaganyaan astronauts, right? So it will monitor health of the astronauts regularly, and it also provide information about the blood pressure and heart rate of the astronauts. Secondly, a seamless communication link by keeping crew regularly connected with onboard computers and also the ground-based stations, and it also helps in maintaining a log on missions in multiple formats, including voice records, text and images. So these are some benefits of this Sakhi app that has been developed by Dr. Vikram Sarabhai Space Center located in Tumba in Thiruvananthapuram. Additionally, you can also go through some other details with respect to this Sakhi app. Okay, so how this Sakhi app will help astronauts in this Gaganyaan mission, so you can go through it. And apart from that, so there are some details with respect to Gaganyaan mission, right? So initially the Gaganyaan mission was targeted at the year 2022. However, this was missed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so in fact, as I have already told you, that this is going to be India's first manned space mission if it is successful. And what are the objectives of Gaganyaan mission? So the objectives, India has been planning to launch 3 crew members into the low Earth orbit and bring them back safely to Earth, and it also demonstrate capability to send humans into space and also develop and test technologies required for human spaceflight. Remember one thing, that India has plans to send humans into the surface of the moon by 2045. India will send humans into moon. And apart from that, India also have plans to build space station, its own space station by the year 2035. So in order to do so, we need to have a technology to send human beings into the space. So as part of this larger ambition, so we have been testing our technology with respect to sending humans into the low Earth orbit or into the space. So the launch vehicle that will be used for this Gaganyaan mission is LVM-3. So that is GSLV Mark III derived. Okay, so remember we have several times discussed about this LVM-3. So that is the heaviest space rocket that ISRO has as of now, right? So in fact, the modules as part of the Gaganyaan mission consisting of the orbiter module, it consists of a crew module. And crew module, this is the crew module. Okay, so this is crew module, and this crew module is habitat of astronauts. So this is the module where astronauts would live. And apart from that, it also has a service module as well. Okay, so this service module will be powered by 2 liquid propellant engines. So it will be having 2 liquid propellant engines. Okay, so 3 flights will be sent into orbit, and there will be 2 unmanned flights and 1 human space flight. And from where it will be launched? It will be launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. So if you look at the duration of this mission, so it will circle Earth at the low Earth orbit at an altitude of 300 to 400 km from Earth for 5 to 7 days. Now collaborations. So ISRO has been collaborating with Russia's Roscosmos, so that is Russia's space agency, and France National Center for Space Studies. So both Russia and France are collaborating with Indian Space Research Organization in this respect. Now what is the significance of this Gaganyaan mission? So once this mission is accomplished, India will become the 4th country in the world to launch a human spaceflight mission after US, Russia and China that I have already discussed. So this is the significance, and these are some details with respect to the Gaganyaan mission. Next is the Kulasekarapatnam spaceport. Okay, so Kulasekarapatnam spaceport is located in Tamil Nadu. Now, as of now, India has a very reliable spaceport, so that is at Sriharikota, right? Sriharikota Satish Dhawan Space Center. However, India has been planning to have a second spaceport, so that will be at the Kulasekarapatnam spaceport. So once the Kulasekarapatnam spaceport is ready, so India will be having 2 space launch stations, one at Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh and second will be at Kulasekarapatnam spaceport in Tamil Nadu. And in fact, recently Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone for this Kulasekarapatnam spaceport in Thoothukudi district of Tamil Nadu. Remember, I've told you that this is located in Tamil Nadu. We'll also see this Kulasekarapatnam spaceport and its advantages compared to this Sriharikota launch station. So we'll understand that as well. Okay, so some details with respect to Kulasekarapatnam spaceport are, so it will be used to launch small satellite launch vehicles initially, right? So Kulasekarapatnam space port will be initially used to launch small satellite launch vehicles. And in fact, it has several advantages in comparison to Sriharikota facility in Andhra Pradesh. So what are those advantages in comparison to Sriharikota? Included, it is located very close to equator and it will also save a lot of fuel. So that is one advantage. Okay, so generally when satellites are being launched from Sriharikota, so ISRO needs to do a special maneuver with these launch vehicles. So that maneuver is known as a dog leg maneuver, right? So dog leg maneuver. So in order to avoid Sri Lanka, okay, so in order to avoid Sri Lanka, because initially if something goes wrong, this rocket would fall on the habitations in Sri Lanka, so that would cause a severe damage. So in order to avoid Sri Lanka, ISRO would conduct a dog leg maneuver of this rocket in order to avoid Sri Lanka. But when we develop a spaceport at Kulasekarapatnam, there is no need to do this dog leg maneuver by the ISRO. So we could directly launch these satellites into the space, right? So we'll understand about that. Okay, now in fact rockets can now, so somewhere here the Kulasekarapatnam is located and ISRO is located, so sorry, this Sriharikota is located somewhere here and here Sri Lanka, right? Now when ISRO launches a rocket from Sriharikota, so it cannot go directly south. Okay, so this is the actual path of the rocket. So it cannot go directly south. Why? Because if something goes wrong, this rocket would fall on habitations in Sri Lanka. So in order to avoid Sri Lanka, initially the rocket goes east and then avoid Sri Lanka and then it would go to south. So this is how rockets are launched from ISRO. But when we launch it from Kulasekarapatnam, there is no need for the rocket to do this kind of a maneuver, so it can directly go south, so it can save a lot of fuel. So that is the main advantage of the Kulasekarapatnam. So rockets can now head straight to the southern direction. They quickly reach the orbit as well. From Sriharikota facility, the rocket first heads east and then it turns south to avoid these airspace of Sri Lanka. So this rocket would avoid the airspace of Sri Lanka. So in order to do so, any rocket which is launched from Sriharikota, first it would do the maneuver towards the east and then south. But Kulasekarapattanam, it directly goes south. Okay, so you can see here, this maneuver is known as the dog leg maneuver, right? This is the dog leg maneuver. First it goes a little bit of east and then it will go to this direction. So when any satellite is being launched from Sriharikota. But on the other hand, if a satellite is being launched from Kulasekarapattanam, so it directly heads the south, because there's no need to avoid the airspace of Sri Lanka with respect to this Kulasekarapattanam. Okay, so understand few things, that the second space port will be used for the smaller rockets or SSLVs, right? And apart from that, so what is the difference between this Kulasekarapattanam and Sriharikota? So dog leg maneuver is a sharp turn. So this is known as dog leg maneuver. Okay, so this is dog leg maneuver. So that a sharp turn that causes rocket to deviate from the straight flight path, and this dog leg maneuver requires more fuel in the rocket that eats into the payload capacity of the launcher. So when this rocket has been carrying more fuel, because it requires more fuel, because in order to make such a maneuver, so when we are adding more fuel, then that could add up to the weight of the rocket, and adequate number of satellites cannot be launched, right? So in polar missions, PSLV from Sriharikota must perform this dog leg maneuver in order to avoid flying over Sri Lanka to protect it from the rocket debris. When rockets are launched from Kulasekarapattanam, this maneuver is not required, as there is no landmass along the flight path in the southward direction, and this is where Kulasekarapattanam is located in Tamil Nadu. I hope you have understood this. And in fact, some details with respect to launching satellites into space through rockets, okay, from launch vehicles from Sri Lanka. So since the establishment of this launch station in 1970s, the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota has been a pivotal and a very important part in executing numerous launches, making it one of the very important space launch, only important space launch stations for India. So it is a cornerstone for India's space missions. And we all knew that Sriharikota is located on the eastern coast of India, right? So this is not just about the geographical convenience, but it is also a strategic choice that significantly enhances the efficiency of rocket launches. And in fact, its proximity to the equator is particularly advantageous, right? So we all knew that Earth rotates from west to east, and it is fastest at the equator. So thereby it could provide rockets launched from very close distance or to equator, so that would provide an additional push, so thereby no need to use higher amount of fuel. Okay, so this natural boost, courtesy of the country's Earth's rotational velocity, further allow reduction in the fuel required for the rocket to achieve the orbit, right? So that would increase the capacity for payloads and making launches more efficient and cost effective as well. So please pause the video and also go through this again, so that you can understand this in a very detailed manner. Next is Pushpak reusable launch vehicle. Okay, this is LEX-02 launched successfully. So we'll try to understand this as well. So ISRO successfully conducted this Pushpak reusable launch vehicle, which is also known as LEX-02 landing experiment. Okay, so we'll understand what exactly is this Pushpak reusable landing vehicle LEX-02. So this LEX-02 of reusable launch vehicle is the second of the series of experiments that ISRO has been conducting under a reusable launch vehicle technology demonstration, RLVTD program. Okay, so technology demonstration program. And in fact, the reusable launch vehicle LEX-02 revalidated indigenously developed technologies for performing high-speed autonomous landing of a space-returning vehicle. And this reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator program aims at developing essential technologies for a fully reusable launch vehicle to enable low access to space. So I'll try to explain this. As of now, we have been using launch vehicles to send satellites into the space, right? So however, when we use these reusable launch vehicles, so these vehicles can be used time and again. They can be used number of times, thereby significantly cutting down the cost to send satellites into the space. Okay, so that is reusable launch vehicle. Now when we send rockets into the space carrying satellites, so they can be used only once. But when we develop technology of these reusable launch vehicles, so we can send satellites through these reusable launch vehicles multiple times, right? So they look exactly like an aeroplane, right? So they look like an aeroplane. So initially they sent like a rocket into the space, and they release all the satellites into the orbit, and then again these launch vehicles would come back to Earth, and again they can be used after making some modifications, so thereby substantially reducing the cost of sending satellites into the space. So that is one of the biggest advantage of it. Okay, so that's why we are planning to develop this Pushpak reusable launch vehicle. So this vehicle will be scaled up to become the first stage of India's reusable two-stage orbital launch vehicle. And the advantages of this reusable launch vehicle is considered a low cost, reliable, and also on demand mode of accessing space. So now see, this is how it is launched. Pushpak reusable launch vehicle will be launched. So when it is being launched, so a combined coast phase and a separated coast phase, and it releases satellites into the space, and it would start a descent and it re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and then aerodynamic mode and splash down on the sea. Okay, so this is how it will be done. And again, this can be used to send satellites into the space. But on the other hand, if you look at these conventional rockets, so they can only be used once, right? So that is the advantage of this Pushpak reusable launch vehicle. Now conventional rocket, today using a conventional rocket, it costs $5,000 to put 1 kg of payload into the orbit. But on the other hand, when we use this reusable vehicle, it can be done with just $500 per kg of payload. So you can see the difference, right? So 10x reduction in the cost of sending satellites into the space with this reusable launch vehicle. And in fact, India currently spending 300 crore on satellite launches, and exclusive use of this reusable launch vehicle Pushpak will bring down the cost to 10 times. Earlier we have been spending $5,000 to send 1 kg of payload into this orbit, and now we could use only $500 per kg of payload into the satellite. Okay, so in fact this reusable launch vehicle will touch Mach 5 times the sound speed of the sound, and re-enter the atmosphere and land on water. Okay, this reusable launch vehicle is a winged vehicle, so that will take off like a rocket. So it will also take off like a rocket and glide back to land like a plane, so that you can see here. And it is also a developed version of the reusable launch vehicle, and that can be used for manned missions in future as well, right? So after the success of Gaganyaan, so we can also use these reusable launch vehicles, right? So once we have acquired the advanced technologies with respect to reusable launch vehicles. So in this experiment, the reusable launch vehicle will land on water, because as of now India does not have a long runway, because the reusable launch vehicles require a runway of around 5 kilometers, but India's longest runway as of now is just 2 kilometers, and because of that reason the reusable launch vehicle will land on the sea. Okay, so I hope you have understood this reusable launch vehicle. And next is multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle technology. So this MIRV technology. So this technology is also very important, and this is also in news in recent times. So we'll try to understand what exactly this MIRV technology. So first and foremost, I'll try to explain this MIRV technology. So imagine that India's ballistic missile Agni 5. Okay, so India's ballistic missile Agni 5. So there will be one missile which is in Agni 5 rocket, right? So when this Agni 5 rocket is launched, so it can attack only one target, right? So it can attack only one single target. But on the other hand, when we have this MIRV technology, then we will send a multiple, so we can send a multiple missiles through a one single rocket. So thereby it can target multiple targets. So it can hit multiple targets with one single launch, and that is known as multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle. So we'll try to understand this as well. So DRDO has conducted its first successful flight test named Mission Divyastra, right? So this is known as Mission Divyastra. Okay, Mission Divyastra. Right, Mission Divyastra. So Mission Divyastra is indigenously developed Agni 5 missile with multiple independently targetable vehicles. So this is also known as MIRV technology. So I'll explain this MIRV technology. So when we talk about this multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle technology, so the genesis is that it was originally developed in the year 1960s, right? So it was originally developed in the year 1960s to allow a single missile to carry multiple nuclear warheads, each capable of striking different targets independently. As I've already told you that, so this is a missile. So in this particular missile, so you can have multiple warheads, right? So for example, so you can hold multiple warheads within one single missile. So these multiple warheads can actually hit multiple targets on the adversary territory. However, conventionally we just have one single warhead. In conventional missiles we only have one single warhead that can only attack, so one single that can only target one single adversary, that can only hit one target alone. But this MIRP technology will ensure that each of these missiles are equipped with multiple warheads, and these multiple warheads could hit multiple targets on adversary territory, and that is known as MIRV technology. It was originally developed in the year 1960s to allow a single missile to carry multiple nuclear warheads, and each warhead capable of striking different targets independently. And in fact, USA was the first country to develop this multiple independent targetable re-entry vehicle. So in fact, Russia, United Kingdom, France and China also have this MIRV technology as of now. So you have to remember this as well. Okay, so this is how a normal missile actually having one nuclear warhead, and it can only hit one single target, right? So it can only hit one single target because it is having one nuclear head. But on the other hand, with MIRV technology, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle could have multiple warheads, and they can also hit multiple targets on the adversary territory, so thereby creating a greater destruction on the enemy territory, and that is MIRV technology. So as of now, US, China, Russia, France, so all these countries already having this MIRV technology. I hope you have understood, right? Conventional missiles only having one single warhead. So each re-entry vehicle can be independently targeted, launched from one missile but hitting different targets. So you can see it can hit different targets, but conventional missiles, so it can hit only one target, but MIRV missiles, so with one single missile it can hit multiple targets. Okay, so as of now we have 5 Agni series missiles. Agni 5 is the missile with the longest operational range of 5,500 to 5,800 kilometers, and in fact Agni 5 is also a nuclear capable intercontinental ballistic missile. And you need to remember this Abdul Kalam Island, it is located in Odisha. So most of the test flights of these missiles are conducted by the DRDO from this Abdul Kalam Island itself. And Agni 1 missile and its operational range 700 kilometers, Agni 2 2000 kilometers, and Agni 3 2500 kilometers, and also Agni 4 which is having 3,500 kilometers, and Agni 5 with the operational range of 5,500 to 5,800 kilometers, and it is a nuclear capable missile, right? And next is human genome sequencing program. So we'll try to understand some aspects with respect to human genome sequencing. What exactly is this human genome sequencing? So Genome India project, so it was launched by Department of Biotechnology under Ministry of Science and Technology in the year 2020, right? So this project is known as Genome India project, and in fact India announced its first complete human genome in the year 2009. However, the aim of the Genome India project, so that was launched by Department of Biotechnology in the year 2020 to collect 10,000 genetic samples from citizens across India and create a reference genome for the Indian population. So this is very important, right? So creating a reference genome for Indian population is very important for drug design, drug manufacturing, to deal with new diseases or gene specific diseases, genetic diseases, vaccine manufacturing. So it has a number of applications, and because of that reason this Genome India project was launched in the year 2020 by Department of Biotechnology to collect 10,000 genetic samples from citizens across India and also create a reference genome for Indian population. Now about this Genome India project, so human genome sequencing mission, it comprises of researchers from 20 national institutes led by Center for Brain Research, Bengaluru, right? So it will be led by Center for Brain Research in Bengaluru, and the data sets are generated will be stored in Indian Biological Data Center, which is located in Faridabad. So you need to understand these things, they are very important. And it was inspired by the Human Genome Project, HGP, and the first international research effort to determine entire human genome DNA sequence. Okay, so in fact the Genome India project of India is inspired by Human Genome Project, and the first Genome India project, Human Genome Project, which is also known as HGP, is the first international research effort to determine entire human genome DNA sequence. Okay, so this Human Genome Project at the international level, that was launched in the year 1990, and it was completed way back in the year 2003, and it covered around 92% of total genome sequences. And in fact this Human Genome Project at the international level was led by International Human Genome Sequencing Consortium that has involved scientists from 20 institutes in 6 countries including France, Germany, Japan, China, UK and US. And in fact this Human Genome Project will create database, representative of India's diverse population, in addition to the other benefits which are being offered by the genome sequencing. I've already told you that the benefits of this human genome sequencing, so right, vaccine manufacturing, design of drugs, pharma industry, and also finding out clinical cure for new genetic diseases. So it is having a lot of advantages, a lot of benefits. Because of that reason, countries and at the international level also human genome sequencing is being done. So these are the processes which are being involved in human genome sequencing. So this is not that important, so you can just pause it and you can go through it. Okay, and next is ghost particle. We'll try to understand what exactly these ghost particles, right? They are also known as e-neutrinos or ghost particles. Okay, so they are subatomic particles with no electrical charge, and they also having a negligible amount of mass. And in fact, these ghost particles or e-neutrinos are high energy neutrinos which are released from the cosmic sources at the Milky Way's edge. And in fact, they are also known as astrophysical neutrinos. So they are known as ghost particles because nearly 100 trillion of neutrinos pass through human bodies almost every second without human beings noticing them. And in fact, so under the standard model of particle physics, they are classified as lepton, right? These ghost particles are also classified as lepton, right? So these are black holes, right? So from black holes, these e-neutrinos or ghost particles are being released, and they pass throughout the earth and even human bodies also. And gamma rays, and they point to their sources, but they can be absorbed and are created by multiple emission mechanisms, right? Neutrinos, they are weak and neutral particles that point to their sources and carry information from deep within the origins. Some cosmic rays, right? So these are you can see gamma rays and neutrinos and cosmic rays. So these are cosmic rays. So they are charged particles and are defected by magnetic fields. So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like our work, so please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. So thank you.